They did their first public screening for Dune 2 earlier this week with a regular, average moviegoers, paying audience to go see it at a theater in Paris. And Denis Villeneuve took the movie out there, and we read on this show a bunch of the reactions of those average film fans coming out. And the reactions were, iconic. The reactions were absolutely 100% through the roof from that average movie-going audience. Well, last night, or the other night, they had the actual premiere for Dune 2, where a lot of the celebrities went, but also a lot of the journalists went to go see the film for the first time. And their reactions were even better than the average filmgoers' reactions out of Paris. And it's not an exaggeration to say some of these things are saying, like, this is the sci-fi epic of the generation. Like stuff like that. So let's read through some of the reactions here, shall we, that we got from Dune 2. Let's see. Hoy from Inverse wrote, Dune Part 2 is a triumph, even more immense than the first, but much more intimate. Denis Villeneuve manages to streamline the more alienating second half of the book into a riveting, action-packed epic, Two Towers level mastery of battle sequences. Oh, I love hearing that. Two Towers level mastery of battle sequences. Zendaya is the star. Mike Ryan from Uprocks writes, I was kind of mixed on the first Dune. Dune Part 2 is phenomenal. Up there with the greatest sci-fi movies I've ever seen. I want to ride a sandworm. Hashtag Dune Part 2. Ray's getting a kick out of that. All right. Jazz from Variety wrote, Dune Part 2 is a giant epic, a masterclass of crafts from Greg Fraser's exceptional photography to Patrice Vermetti's magnificent world building. Denis Villeneuve has delivered his magnus opus, directing one of the best sci-fi films for generations to come. Katie from the LA Times writes, this is what I texted the foremost Dune head. Let me try this again. This is what I texted the foremost Dune head in my life, my dad, yesterday. Now, in her post, there's a picture of just a text message that says, Dune 2 is amazing. Yesterday, after watching Dune Part 2, I'm in a full froth for this thing. It's even better than the first, and I loved that one. Courtney Howard from the AV Club wrote, Dune Part 2 is jaw-dropping, breathtaking, and wildly exhilarating. It's an adrenaline rush to the head and heart, soaring in its spectacle-driven action sequences as much as it sings in its refined, evocative stillness. Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya turn in singular work. Our friend Brandon Davis wrote, Dune Part 2 is a masterpiece. Denis Villeneuve drops an awe-inspiring, action-packed achievement in a hearty, complex story. It's an astonishing, moving film which demands to be seen on the biggest, most immersive screen possible. I loved it. Innovative and thrilling. Jeff from Strange Harbors wrote, Dune Part 2, Denis lands every spectacular, brutalist tableau he threw in the air 3 years ago. Sci-fi myth-making at its finest and most tragic. The gravity of manufactured destiny, the untamable tendrils of belief. I love this. Rosa Parra from Latino Slant wrote, Dune 2 is an epic masterpiece cinematic experience. It's visceral, palpable, and must be seen on the biggest screen possible. Watched it a few days ago, and I'm still riding the high of that experience. And the rich mythology, acting, and story are all elevated by the visuals and sound design. And it just goes on and on. I mean, we're accustomed to hearing reviews and stuff like that to a great movie saying, this movie's great. This movie's fun. Get out and see it as soon as you can. It is not often that we get a lot of people coming out of these things and singularly saying, this is the sci-fi movie of the next few generations. This thing is a generational kind of movie. This is a movie people will be talking about. This is a movie, and everything from its mythology building to, we often heard action-packed, start to finish, adrenaline rushing, all that kind of stuff, head to toe. And so that kind of raises a question about how big can this Dune thing really be? And that is actually the topic of today's Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. Listen, guys, if you've got a question for our show and you'd like to hear your voice on our show, go ahead and call our Mint Mobile hotline anytime 24/7 at 951-268-4259. And it's about specifically, how big can this thing get? Check it out.
Hey, John, what's going on? My name is Lauren. Hope your day is going well. Quick question. It looks like Dune is getting some good reactions. This is kind of a parallel to Star Wars, right? Because it's a pretty similar looking product. Do you think Dune has a chance to become this generation's Star Wars? Because if you look at the quality, I think personally, and I think a lot of people will agree with this, that Dune's quality is light years better than what Star Wars put in the movie theaters of recent. Do you think Dune has a chance to become as generational as Star Wars has been? If not, where do you see this Dune franchise going? How successful do you think it can get?
All right, Lauren, thanks a lot for calling that in. Here's the thing. In asking the question, like, we're seeing this incredible response and reaction from average film fans to now the press seeing it and everybody's saying this thing is straight up mind-blowing. But can it be the new generation Star Wars? I mean, I would have to agree it's better than anything we've gotten in Star Wars last, because I just think this Dune thing is remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable what Denis doing with this thing. But I would say this. There have been many, many franchises that have come and gone over the decades where people wondering, can this be the new Star Wars? Can this be the new Star Wars? Can this be the next Star Wars? It's never happened. And I don't think Dune, no matter how good it is going to be it either. And there's one main reason why. Regardless of how good it is, regardless of how much money it makes, I don't think it will be, and that is this. The type of heavy, philosophical, mythological world building that Denis is doing with Dune does not appeal to the vast, wider movie-going audience like something like the space opera Star Wars did. Right? Like Star Wars, which is my favorite thing of all time. You guys know that. I've practically modeled my life after Star Wars. But it is a space opera adventure, right? That has a wider appeal base. You know, I mentioned the other day, Ann and I went to go see Dune Part 1 again, and I was just floored and immersed in all this mythology building and world building and the depths of their stories and all that kind of stuff. Only to have some of my viewers write into me go, Dune's boring. And it's not to say that they're wrong. It's to say that different things appeal to different people, right? That's all it is. Different things appeal to different people. The type of dish that Dune 1 was serving up is the type of dish I'll eat all day. Like, to me, it was glorious. But it's not the dish everybody likes. A lot of people love lobster. Guess what? I don't like lobster. I don't eat lobster. Like, it's not that lobster's bad. It's just not for me. It's not for everybody. And I think the type of storytelling that Dune does, even if Dune Part 2 is going to be in the midst of this Two Towers level kind of action, I still don't think it's going to appeal to a wide enough base that it could become as sheer universally beloved as something like Star Wars did back in the 70s and 80s, and then endure for generation after generation after generation. And I don't say that as a knock on Dune or Dune 2. Like I said, besides Deadpool 3, man, there's no other movie I'm more excited to see than Dune 2. And I think it's going to be spectacular. And according to everything we're hearing from fans and journalists alike, it sounds like it's everything they're promising it'll be. But it's still not going to be the new Star Wars because, again, Denis made the perfect kind of film, but it's not a film that's going to be for everybody. The same way that something like a Star Wars did or something that a Lord of the Rings did, you know? So, no. Bottom line, I don't think this is going to be the new Star Wars. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. On average, it takes about 30 days for a person to break their New Year's resolution. So if saving money was on your 2024 list, your odds aren't looking that great. Luckily, I have a 100% guaranteed way to save you money this year. Just switch to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for $15 a month. I've told you guys many times that after switching to Mint Mobile, I am spending less than a third on my cell bill than I used to with a major carrier. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All Mint plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And don't worry about having to change phones or numbers. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So guys, to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Anyway, Chris, we are hearing remarkable things about Dune 2. Do you think, as Lauren wrote in and asked, if it's good enough, do you think it could be the next Star Wars for the new generation? What do you think?
It could really blow up. It's hard to say because that's such a part of the zeitgeist. But then again, so is the book Dune, right? That book series is very, very popular with folks. Star Wars just hit this kind of cultural nerve in the best way, though, that, permeated generations. And it's hard to say after seeing one film if the sequel is going to be that, right? If this is going to be their empire, if this is going to be their Two Towers. And I'm one of those people who that first film, I went, I'm not into this. This is kind of boring to me. And again, I understand that it's a pacing thing, that this does follow the pace of the book. I am an absolute apologist for all of Tolkien's works of how slow those are. Where I'm like, but once you get past the description of grass, it's a really good book. So I can understand. And I keep hoping that this is going to be an epic, amazing follow-up. And I keep hearing that it is.
But you do, unlike the first one, need to not watch this from home the first time.
Yeah, I watched it from home.
Yeah.
And this one I'll obviously see in theaters. And that will change things, right? It is different when you can hear your neighbors arguing and your dog needs to be let out in the middle of the movie than seeing it on a big screen. This obviously will make more money than the first one because we're not doing that day and date release. I know people were projecting, $195 million for that kind of first... For its domestic run or something?
Oh, no. I think it's opening the project. Oh, you mean overall domestic?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't see what those numbers were.
I think that was on Coming Soon. It was $195 million domestic with anticipation of it doing really well at the global box office. It's just hard to say if it is going to have that kind of impact because we haven't seen it. We've only heard how other people have viewed it. And typically people are a bit more jazzed when they are at the premiere, when they are seeing things with the cast and crew all there. Those reviews are usually more positive than other reviews that come out later on when it's released to the masses. But these are really, really popular books. This is a really great cast. And if people are that into this and saying that this is the new standard of sci-fi, there's a lot of potential here.
Yeah. The thing that kind of really stuck out to me was that how consistent it was with the average moviegoers who went to go see it a few days earlier in France.
Sure.
I just feel like I don't know that a lot of teenagers will be into this movie. It's just on a different kind of tone length.
They are,
what I mean?
But I feel like that's not even the situation because even how you compared like Lord of the Rings, they are kind of like the standard bearers. But I would go as far as saying even Lord of the Rings, it didn't have that hit. Star Wars was something no one ever saw before in theaters.
Yeah.
And then it became this like cultural hit for over a decade and then into the 90s and then it pushed into like the prequels and all that. I just don't think, there's a reason there's a book called, Star Wars changed, what was it? Star Wars changed the universe?
How Star Wars conquered the universe.
There's a reason why it's that and not Dune or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Because it was more than just the popularity at the time.
Sure.
It's what it was. So
obviously Lord of the Rings was the one that I was like, I'm going to model my life around this.
I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, Lord of the Rings is not even as good. I'm just saying that Star Wars was the one that changed the universe of filmmaking and everything.
Sure.
I don't think this has to be anything like, compared to Star Wars at all. I think it fills some sort of void in the sci-fi audience.
Yeah, there really aren't any similarities between Dune and Star Wars.
No. Yeah,
not really.
It could be a great replacement for Star Wars since Star Wars has been kind of not that great in on the big screen lately, I guess, people. So it could be a great replacement. It could fill a void, but I don't think it has to. I don't expect it to or compare it to Star Wars at all.
See, here's the thing. I would compare Dune more to There Will Be Blood than I would compare it to Star Wars.
I
will say,
okay.
They do like a lot of Tatooine sand.
Yeah, there. Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
unlike-
There's a
Okay,
lot of
like
sand
sand here.
in sci-fi.
I concede
Sand
to the
fight.
Honorable
Well
Ray
done.
that
Yeah.
yes, you're probably right. The sand is definitely
That's
the big
yeah.
selling point there. So all I know is we are what 2 weeks
25th,
away.
baby. We're gonna see it on the 25th.
The 25th is when we're seeing it.
Yep. But
10
the popcorn,
days.
But the popcorn buckets don't release until February
Oh.
29th.
Right. So I think we can all agree that the popcorn buckets will be more successful than the movies.
Yeah.
Well, for some people,
I mean, for all the right and wrong reasons.
Yeah.
For mostly the wrong ones.
I can't wait to see how much money that popcorn bucket makes. It's gonna
I-
be $30, I bet you too.
I'm still like, did no marketing person stop and say,
Every marketing person.
every marketing person
Like-
approved it. They said yes.
but did
They
they
went-
not look at this and say, people might use this for the wrong reason?
I stand by. Who
innocent
wants to be the
eyes.
person who in a room says, I think someone's going to put their dick in it?
Well, I
You
was
don't
gonna
want
say,
to be the first person to say it. 'cause
Justin
what if that's what
Timberlake
everyone's thought?
has got to go back to Saturday Night Live and do a remake of Dick in a Box
Yeah.
because this will completely
Absolutely.
change.
It was seen by innocent eyes.
You know
They
what
didn't
someone
even
needs to
think of
do?
that.
Someone needs to make like intercut with that scene in Air where they were talking about designing the perfect shoe,
Right?
and then
it's-
intercut like specs of this thing.
Perfect.
I'm gonna do it.
Absolute perfection. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.